Buchanan, and Stefan and I and Liam have been part of the AMR Chapel family for the past 2.5 years. Stefan is a chaplain, and as chaplain, you mentioned, I do a bunch of different things. So I'm a lead minister, I'm in school, writing that big, huge academic book at the end of the PhD. And I teach Greek, Hebrew, all that different kind of stuff, and I have a couple of side projects that I'm also working on. But more importantly than that, I get to be Stefan's wife and mom. And that is my favorite thing in all the world. I am about as left-brain as it gets. But I love a good story. And to me, an artist, a good artist, can tell a story through music, words, pictures, and actions. And a great artist can tell a story that can transform a person's perspective, their thought patterns, and maybe even their life. One of my most favorite pieces of art, you can see it right here behind me, is this is a portion of the creation of Adam, and it was painted by Michelangelo. And it tells a fantastic story. The two hands there represent the hand of God on the right and the hand of Adam on the left. And some people say that this particular painting shows a visual representation of the breath of life being given from God to Adam. Yet I can't help but think that this portion of the larger painting also represents the nearness of God to his creation and God's desire for relationship with creation. Every time I see this painting, I'm reminded that from the time that God formed, shaped, created, and breathed the breath of life into Adam's body, God has been all about relationship with humanity in general and with you and me today specifically. If we take a look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 12, which is on page 958 if you'd like to use one of the chapel Bibles, we see that Jesus, too, is telling a story. A life-changing and perspective-altering story. But it's with his words, not with a physical painting. Up to this point in Matthew's Gospel, we're given the story of Jesus' birth, and then we fast forward to Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River by John the Baptist, followed by his temptation in the wilderness by the devil. Upon finding out that John the Baptist had been arrested, Jesus went to live in Capernaum, which is then on the northwest corner of the Sea of Galilee. Jesus began his preaching ministry here, and as he was going throughout Galilee, he called at least 4 different people to follow after him and to become his disciples, which served as an invitation to have close interaction with, learn from, and do life together with Jesus. As Jesus was traveling throughout Galilee, he was teaching in the synagogues, preaching in the streets, and healing people from all kinds of sicknesses and illnesses. This brings us to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5 through 7 is oftentimes called the Sermon on the Mount. Our passage today, Matthew 5, 3 through 12, is the beginning of this sermon or this teaching, and it gives a basic summary of what Jesus is going to say in the rest of chapter 5 and in chapters 6 and 7. My husband Stefan is going to continue on from our passage today, and he'll take us from Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 20 next week. So at this point in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus has become somewhat of an overnight superstar, an unlikely success story from a human perspective. Although he's the Son of God, he grew up in a carpenter's home on the wrong side of the tracks. All of a sudden, and out of nowhere, he starts traveling, preaching, teaching, and healing people. Crowds of people are now flocking to see him and to have the chance to interact with him. But Jesus takes a moment to step away from the crowds in order to teach his disciples about some of the realities of life. Jesus sits down on the hillside or the mountain. His disciples come near to him. Others are standing by, listening, watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. And Jesus speaks to his disciples, to the people that are standing nearby, to the people who have committed their lives to following after him. And this is what he says. I'm reading from the New International Version. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is quite a dramatic way to start a teaching and training moment. All kinds of amazing things have been happening, and in a sense, Jesus tells his disciples, all this that you see happening right now, it's not always going to be that way. There are times when life is going to happen. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It may cost you everything, even your life. But you are blessed. You are fortunate. And there is a reward waiting for you if you remain faithful. But if we take a deeper look at these statements, we find that Jesus is actually telling his disciples and us something magnanimous and significant. He's telling us that God sees, knows, and understands our current situation, and he is right there with us. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start with verse 3 again. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Poor in spirit. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? Does it mean that we have to be physically poor or spiritually poor? Not really. Jesus is telling his disciples and his followers, blessed are the poor in spirit. In other words, blessed are those who sense and understand their desperate need for and dependence upon God. Blessed are those who realize that they cannot become righteous or attain eternal life on their own without Jesus. Have you ever been there before? Have you ever realized that you can't do it on your own and you really need God's help? If so, this is you. You are blessed. You are fortunate. Yours is the kingdom of heaven. God is near. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who grieve over their own personal sins and who grieve over social evils and oppression. Blessed are those who realize the separation from God that those sins and evil produce and who cry out for God's intervention, for they will be comforted. God is near. Blessed are the meek. In our culture today, we tend to associate meekness and gentleness with weakness. But is this what Jesus is talking about? Must we be weak in order to be blessed? Jesus' idea of meekness is actually quite a bit different than the weakness we tend to associate with it today. Listen to this. Blessed are those who are in positions of leadership and influence, which is all of us. Whether that be at home, at work, at school, with friends, anywhere else we go, or whatever else we're doing. This is you. Blessed are those who are in positions of leadership and influence, who humbly and genuinely depend upon God, who have the maturity and the grace to use their power for constructive purposes rather than destructive purposes, who practice strength under control, for they will inherit the earth. God is near. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are those who have an aching in their soul, in the depths of their being, for God to correct, to set right all the injustices in society, in their personal lives, their families, their loved ones, their community, their nation, and the world. Blessed are those who long for the presence of God to be lived out in all areas of life, all around the world. For one day, they will be satisfied. God is near. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are those who are generous to those who have need. Blessed are those who forgive others, regardless of whether or not they've received an apology, which is incredibly hard to do, especially if someone has hurt you so deeply that their words and actions seem to have control over every aspect of your life. Blessed are those who forgive others. Blessed are those who give others the opportunity to have a fresh start. Blessed are those who care for those who are suffering. And blessed are those who extend compassion to others, for they will be shown mercy. God is near. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are those who are genuine, who are the real deal, who have pure motives behind their actions, and in whom integrity drives their heart, their mind, their will, their emotions, and their actions. Not because of who they are, but because of what God has done for them. Who do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Blessed are those who stand up for God and for what is right when it seems like no one else will. For they will see God. God is near. Blessed are the peacemakers. Oftentimes today we tend to think of peacemakers as diplomats or people who do what they can to maintain a peaceful environment. But Jesus isn't talking about peacekeepers. He's talking about peacemakers. Blessed are those who intervene in the midst of discord, in the midst of strife, in the midst of hostility, helplessness, and hopelessness, to create an environment of peace, to serve as reconcilers, for they will be called sons or children of God. God is near. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, who commit their fidelity to God in the midst of all kind of pressure, who face opposition for their faithfulness to God when compromise seems as though it's the easier option. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. God is near. Blessed are you. When people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. When you experience verbal abuse, defamation of character, reproach, persecution, and slander because of who Jesus is and what he has done. God is near. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. God was with the prophets. God did not leave them. God was near. God is with you, too. He will not leave you, and he is near you. Why are these people blessed? Why are they fortunate? It's because they are following after God. They are pursuing. They are chasing after God in spite of what's going on around them. And because of that, God is near. God is right there with them in the midst of whatever they're going through, and he does not leave them on their own. They might feel like he has, but he hasn't. It's kind of like Michelangelo's painting of the creation of Adam. God is near. God is so tangibly close to Adam that God breathes the breath of life into him. God is near. The same God who created, shaped, and formed the body of Adam and who gave him the breath of life is the same God who was with the prophets of the Old Testament and is the same God who was with the initial disciples of Jesus and is the same God who has been with followers of Jesus throughout history and is the same God that says to you and to me, I am right here and I'm not going anywhere. King David is someone who understood the nearness of God. Several of the Psalms are attributed to him, and we're going to take a look at one of those shortly. So if you would, just turn in your Bibles to Psalm 139. If you're using one of the chapel Bibles, it is on page 618. Throughout David's lifetime, he experienced all kinds of ups and downs. Sometimes that was the result of his own choices, and sometimes that was the result of the choices of people around him. We don't know for sure what the situation was that prompted the writing of Psalm 139. It could have been when David was fleeing from Saul and had to go into hiding for extended periods of time. It could have been when David was king and his son Absalom tried to overthrow him in the kingdom. There are any number of situations or circumstances that could have prompted this writing. But I'd like for us to take a look at verses 1 through 18 of Psalm 139. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. You hem me in, behind and before. You have laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night to me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Let's pray.